Rio, Ina Rā Rangatira, Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Nicola Laho. And Haere mai, it's Maori Welcome Language Week, so I thought we'd do a little bit more than I normally do, but welcome to the ordinary meeting this morning. Do we have any apologies? I think we're all here. Do we have any declarations of interest this morning? We haven't been made aware of any. Public forums, petitions, deputations. Not been made aware of any this morning. So we'll move to item 5, which is the confirmation of minutes for the ordinary meeting of the 23rd of July. Any additions or alterations?
I'll move that, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Morris, seconded by Phil. Any further discussion? If not, I will put the motion. All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move to item 6, which is the adoption of committee resolutions. The first one up is 6.1, the Finance and Performance Committee meeting of the 20th of August.
Mr. Chairman, yes, this there's a reasonably significant change to one of the recommendations that was approved by the committee, and that is under item 4.2 of those minutes, on page 16 and 17 of those minutes. This relates to the procurement policy alignment with the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2334. You'll see that there are 4 recommendations there that the committee agreed to. The last one says about seeks further information about the company. So the staff have done that, and they've come back with a change to the recommendation. So what we're proposing is that we keep number 1, which is receive the report, etc. And we keep number 2, that's United Nations, etc. But we delete that number 3 and number 4 and change them to the ones that have been distributed to you today. Do I have to read those out, Jan? No? Okay. So number 3 is deleted, and the new number 3 is direct Environment Southern not to enter into contractual arrangements with the Israeli-owned companies on the UN Human Rights Council's list of organisations involved in the maintenance, development and consolidation of illegal Israeli settlements on the West Bank of the Palestinian territories, as outlined in attachment 7.10.1. That replaces resolution 3 there. And the new number 4 it's number 2 on your page, but it becomes number 4. Note that Environment Southern does not have direct dealings with the travel booking agencies on the list, but has direct dealings through our own booking agencies. Indirect dealings with our own booking agents. Thank you. And lastly, the new number 5, direct Environment Southern to minimise its direct dealings with these booking agencies, noting that occasional use of these agencies may be required. So in confirming these minutes, Mr. Chairman, that's the new resolution there, 4.2.
So you're moving that as an amendment to the original resolution?
The restructure would be if you adopt the resolutions with the exception of 4.1 and then deal with this item separately and push it as.
Oh, okay.
Because you're not actually confirming the minutes. The minutes are accurate as at the time. What you're doing is adopting the resolutions from it. So you wanted to adopt the resolutions minus item 4.2. Sorry.
Okay, would somebody, having heard Jan's advice, like to move?
I'll move that, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Morris, seconded by Jeremy. Any further discussion? All in favour will say aye.
Aye.
We'll move to
And now you need to deal with what
4.2.
proposed amended resolution.
Right, so I move that we put the amended resolution, which I read out to you.
Seconder for that. Seconded by Lyndall. Any discussion? If there needs to be any, I will put that amended resolution. All in favour will say aye. Aye. Against, no. Carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's nothing else really in those minutes.
And we've moved on now, so we can move to 6.2, which is the adoption of community resolutions from the business committee. I wasn't at that meeting. Would somebody
I'm happy to move it.
moved and seconded?
Fairly
Discussion? I'll put the resolution. All in favour will say aye. Against, no. Carried. Right, 6.3 is the adoption of committee resolutions from the strategy and policy meeting of the 21st. Welcome, Linda. Would you like to comment on the meeting?
Thank you, and apologies for my rushed lateness. Funerals wait for nobody. No, it's fairly self-explanatory actually, Chairman. I just again congratulate Mr. Stuart Bull on another term with the Field and Marine Guardians, and note the climate change and community resilience portfolio update. And that was it. Other than that, I will move those. Thank you.
Moved by Lyndall, seconded for that resolution. Jeremy. I'll put the resolution. All in favour will say aye. Aye. Against, no. Carried. Right, we move to item 7, notification of extraordinary items, urgent business. Not aware of any this morning. Questions?
Sorry, but I thought that I had this one in through Jan. I don't know what happened, but it's not there. I'm getting quite a bit of pushback at the moment regarding the science charges that are sitting on invoices to dairy farmers and also to irrigators and to the Atama Water Scheme, Rural Water Scheme. They were the first ones to come in, and I've got that. Their science charge is $7,306. What they want to do is to understand where that money goes, so they got some idea, because the argument that came to me on that night was that you made a profit, they say, of 1.4 million last year. Did I contribute to it by my science charge? I don't know where the money goes. So can we get, I've talked to Patrick, can we get that itemised or clarified?
Right. So, unless Patrick has had time.
No, he hasn't.
But,
No, because I just.
welcome, Patrick.
I'm happy to take an action to work with Karen to provide clarity about what those charges are.
No, that'll be great. And everybody's entitled to a breakdown of where the funding goes. And but some of these people are actually, the science is allowing them to have consents to irrigate, etc. So a good answer would be good to come back and it can be passed on to people. So thanks for that. Did you have a question?
No, just to support what you're ruling on that question needs to be addressed by staff and had time for them to do that. So
Thank you, Robert. Okay, we'll move to Chairman and Councillors' reports. Happy to answer any questions on anything I've been to. Just a bit of an update on last week. I attended the Te Kahika Leaders Plenary in Wellington. Quite a bit of discussion on momentum towards change, and it was one very good speaker that talked about might be quite good to actually have as part of the induction for the new council. It was very clear on the issues we were facing, and one of the things I took away from it was actually going back to the why we're doing things. But I thought she was very good. But a lot of conversations going on. That group, we've got some real ability to gain efficiencies across the regional sector. It's one part of local government that is actually very cohesive, very supportive of each other. There's a chief scientist now, but there are other areas where I think we can probably say to government, if you want to change, and we're hearing talk about as part of the RMA changes that we might centralise consenting, monitoring and compliance. I believe that would be a disaster myself. So is it going to be the EPA? Is it going to be MPI that have already got animal health? Or it could be the regional sector that could give what everybody wants is actually consistent national direction, but with the ability for regional flavour. I also attended very humbling my last meeting of Whakamat Waituna Trust meeting on Friday after I got off the plane, and they presented me with a piece of Panama, which I will wear with pride and honour. It was actually quite humbling that, you know, I'm a co-chair, but they all sort of said some very nice words. So that was very nice. Some work going on that, you know, the Webster block, we're still working on that, the final wording for that. But there's also a new peat restoration trial going on. So once again, it'll be somebody else sitting at that table with the new council. Some of the work that goes on at Waituna is a test bed for innovation and has the ability to roll out across South and indeed across the rest of the country in some places. So it's been a real privilege to be part of that group since the start. You know, it's a very, you know, you've got DOC, you've got Fonterra, you've got SDC, you've got iwi, you've got ourselves. And it's taken time, I think, to build the trust to actually move forward. And it is small steps. We know that that area is not going to return to pristine waters anytime soon. But I believe we've actually put a good basis in place. Love to be able to have a good wetland on the Waituna Creek. Eventually, it won't be in my time, but I know our scientists could identify, if there was money available, areas in that upper catchment where the nitrogen is coming from. So it's a work in process, and I will continue to watch it from the outside, but good luck with the council and whoever's on that next time. But happy to answer any questions on any activities I've been to. Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Congratulations, Nicole. That's very well done. With regard to your first comment about, you mentioned a woman who spoke very well about the whys. Can you remember her name, and can we see that presentation? Because some of us won't be here.
Right. The presentations will come through shortly, and we can certainly circulate those when they come through. I was taking a few photos, then they said at the end, they will be circulated. So that will be actually good to go to the present council. So there was some very good presentations the other day, and also it was the final get together for 2 or 3 of Doug Lee and myself. 1 or 2 others. There will be probably 6 new chairs in the next council, which will be quite different. But no, I thought it was a really good day, but there'll be a number of those presentations. I know Rachel will be all over getting it out to you, but it's good to have Rob there too. So. Any further questions on any of the activities? Peter.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. Has the Trust ever thought about putting out communications regarding the Webster block sale? There's a lot of confusion in the community. They see it very clearly around, we bought it for this amount and just sold it like that. It would be good to cut through a lot of that stuff with some official engagement around that land use constrictions and things like that. Whose responsibility would it be, as or the Trust's responsibility to communicate?
I think it's probably both. Well, particularly because as part, I mean, we were probably one of the most successful of those freshwater initiatives. We had a very short time frame to actually come up with half the money locally, and in the end, it was decided that purchasing some land, which was going to automatically devalue. I mean, let's be quite clear about that. This was in the most flood-prone land that could be repurposed over time. So the Webster block, which, you know, it's it's under 50 hectares, but quite exciting that over time it will return to native fauna, plantings, wetlands, etc. And I think we need to tell a good story there, because actually what's going on down there, we've had money coming from Fonterra through DOC. Yeah, you know, these are quite interesting synergies that people have been able to work together and make some real progress. But you know, Waituna was always going to be a long journey, and we've started that journey. But look, Sam, I think, is happy to answer. But
Yeah, just through you, Chair, very happy to work with the Trust on some joint communications. I'll take that as an action for this meeting.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Neville.
I can't remember whether it was a public meeting or a public excluded meeting where we decided to do the land sale. I think it was a public meeting, wasn't it? Therefore, it's on our website and in the minutes of our meeting, so there shouldn't be any confusion about what we were doing and why.
Sure.
And look, you know, just a bit further on it, I mean, most charitable trusts at the moment with the changes are going through a process where if for any reason a trust actually finishes up, you need to have very clear pathway on where community money, public money in this case, actually ends up, and it's the same from service clubs to anybody else. It's just about getting the right wording there. So the dollar transfer is really so that the trust has the ability to, if they need to raise some money, do the plantings, but in the event, and I don't think it will happen, but in the event that we're still lined up, the final wording is yet to be sorted, but I've got great confidence that Rob has the ability to sign that off, and I think there's some ongoing conversations at the moment on them.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, for that. Would you just give us your thoughts on the local government conference? Yeah, I see there's a report there around it. Just general thoughts on that conference. We were there too. It'd be good for you to.
I think I've been to quite a few conferences over my time there. There were one or two quite inspiring speakers, but quite interesting to see the reaction to some of the politicians turning up. That you had the ACT leader, which at least they respected, he fronted up. And I guess it is changeover. People are looking at talk about rates capping. And personally, I think that you could do business as usual. Obviously, we don't know where the RMA changes will leave regional councils in the future, but you know, the hint is that they want regional plans. There'll be some efficiency gains there for all ratepayers if that's adhered to, and I think that would be a really good start. One plan across a region, consistency, and I think that's one of the things I took away from it. But the other conversations we've had with a number of MPs, including Shane Jones on the call, where he sort of started off quite anti-regional councils, but then he really loves catchment boards and really loves the work that Southland are doing. So that was a pat on the back. He still hasn't announced the money he promised us on that call, but I'm sure he will make it in his good time. But you know, I think going forward for transparency, if you underfund things, you dig a hole. We know that. But business as usual, probably fine. But if there's a project that the community wants done, you have that conversation, and that's got to be outside any rates capping. But that's about.
I'm sorry. Just one final question, Mr. Chairman. So you brought up about rates capping. It was a highlight at that conference, wasn't it? Every day when we walked in, we saw the big billboards. Do you think if we go down that track, there could be some risk to our council, government-funded flood protection projects that we have in the pipeline into the future? Does that present some risk to this community?
Well, I think that's the conversation that we do have, is that actually there's no way we can come up with even 40% with business as usual. So business as usual, we've been told, you know, do the must-dos, not the nicest to do. Flood protection for our people is not nice to do. It's must do. So that conversation, and I think we will see more money in the next month. But this council will have to look at it and say, are we going to pick that up? But you need to have the conversation and with the community to say, look, there will be a cost to the next generation, but these are the reasons why we're doing it. Robert.
Thank you, Nicola. Did you hear any talk around the RMA changes to the RMA around the potential extinction of water conservation orders, which is in the news just at the moment. Was that discussed?
No, it wasn't. It seems to be a Federated Farmers one that's come through. But look, we know that as they move through the RMA, there are going to be changes, and there'll be limited time to actually have submissions on it. The national direction, we've had a wee bit of, we've seen a little bit where they're going there. But, you know, it's one of the things I keep raising is if you've got permitted activities, who pays to monitor them? There are a lot of questions out there. The three waters, of course, is still a big issue, and my fear is that some of the stuff's been put out there. You could give territorials the ability to lower the bar, but if the environmental part of the new act stays the same, does that mean private sector and individuals have to do more? So those will be conversations for the next council. But I've always believed for Southland that we're the most connected in the country, and we need to work together for the benefit of the whole region. Second last meeting, we had more questions on one of the activities for quite some time. That's good. Any further questions? If not, are there any other reports? Morris, you have one?
I've got one, Mr. Chairman, up to. So the report here is on the aquaculture pathway that Great South launched. And I went to this, and a number of other councillors and staff were there too. So I haven't said too much about this. A summary would be that, you know, there's a great deal of excitement in the industry for expanded aquaculture. The biggest opportunities are for offshore salmon farms, but there are some other smaller initiatives as well. You know, my concern has been with the salmon farms has been about the sustainability of them and the potential they have to pollute the environment. But I was very reassured by the people that are involved, particularly Barry Bragg and Pania Coote, were, you know, they said obviously, and I think this goes for the whole industry too, from what I can gather, is that they're really interested in wanting to promote this, but it's really got to be done in a sustainable way. So they're trying to do it and ending up with a bad effect on the environment. So that was really reassuring. I said at the bottom of it that I have a booklet with all the details, and I do have it, but it's at home. I will try to bring it, but I have sent you all an email with a link to the Great South work on aquaculture, and it basically explains it all there. So yeah, that was very good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
No, thanks for that, Morris. And as I did say in the opening remarks, it has been quite a slow burn. With 10 years ago, we launched the first sword strategy. But good things take time, and it was very heartening to hear Ngāi very passionate about having an industry, having their own ability to do things for their people, but sustainability was up front and centre. And with the cooler waters of Fabo Strait, we are probably the envy of a lot of places in the world where there's the ability to have that expansion. Peter.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. Morris, was there any talk around biosecurity programs, industry biosecurity programs, and the funding of those? Or is there an expectation that they'll be funded externally or not within the industry? Just trying to get a bit of a gist on that.
I don't think I can answer that question, Mr. Chairman. Anybody else was there can remember that. There was some talk about it, but it wasn't a big part of the deal. Certainly they're concerned that if things could come in that compromise the industry. So that's important to keep those sorts of things out.
I'd just suggest that probably it's important that we don't sleepwalk into an arrangement that is not clear understanding from the outset before the industry scales up.
Do you understand that the expectation is that industry would fund the biosecurity program? But it's a good point to make sure that it's a bit.
I've got Alistair, John, then Neville. Alistair.
I think it becomes very clear that
No, wait.
that our coastal plan needs to get in place, or parts of it. Because this thing's going to move reasonably quickly. When you saw how much money was behind it, and the forces that were going to make it work.
And I'll jump back up to Lyndall as we wait.
Thanks, I've got a separate report, so if, can I just jump into that?
Yep.
Excuse me. I was very privileged at the end of last week, which is why I didn't get the cut off for the papers, to be invited to be on a panel of parties at the James Harkness College Junior Campus. The school are looking at studying the 1984 floods, and the pre-work and the during the event and the after consequences, and how a whole lot of formal agencies work in a time of disaster, and they're basing it around the 1984 floods. So there was a representative from the Invercargill City Council, somebody from one of the health agencies, Salvation Army, me, who's beside me? EMS, so we had Janelle and one of the other staff members, and there was somebody else there too, sorry. So the students asked us questions, and we went round and explained what our formal agencies do before a disaster, so in preparedness, and what happens during the disaster, and what happens after. So it was illuminating. Actually, the students were all made to take notes. They all had big pages, and they all wrote notes from all the speakers. And I've asked the school if we could, at some point, can hear from a couple of the students about what they learned. I was able to tell them about our infrastructure and about our how we plan our flood banks, and what their purpose is, about, you know, not necessarily keeping a big lot of water in, but giving people time to get away, those kinds of principles. So I had lots of great questions and some great feedback from the whole day. So expect me to find a way for either council or strategy and policy to get some of those students in to tell us what they learned about how the agencies work together, and how it all, what they've learned. Yeah, so it was really cool. I was really, really chuffed to be involved. So there you go.
Good one.
Yep.
John, then Neville.
Yeah, sorry, just reversing back to the agriculture. I guess question for staff with around industry funding itself. What happens through the fast track process? Do we lose control of having input into that?
I think Bruce is going to come up and talk us through.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman. I was also at the launch that Councillor Rodway referred to, a really topical question, and as part of the fast track process, we have at least one applicant that is proposing for a large-scale agricultural development that's looking to utilise that pathway. Pretty well known, it's already on the listed projects on the fast track website. As part of the process, we can provide inputs. We're not the decision maker, obviously, but we have an opportunity to look at the conditions of consent, and we can provide feedback on those. And if we felt that the costs of biosecurity and other aspects like ongoing monitoring, etc., were going to unduly fall on our communities, then we can provide that sort of feedback. So we're certainly focused on that, as Mr. Phillips said, making sure that the obviously looking to facilitate the development of the industry, but also make sure that the costs fall in the appropriate place. Thank you.
Neville.
There's a question perhaps for Councillor Rodway might be able to answer it. The original application for the development of agriculture in Favour Strait was declined by the commissioners in some detail, a number of reasons. Morris, are you satisfied that the new initiative will address those concerns that came up in that?
Well, no, I don't know if I can answer that, Mr. Chairman. Bruce might be.
Bruce will know.
Yeah, he knows everything.
Yeah, I don't know everything. Definitely not. But I can respond to some aspects of that. Obviously, the Tahu Hananui application, as you're referring to, Councillor Cook, was declined under the previous fast track legislation, and Ngāi Tahu Seafood are preparing a new application under the new legislation. The new legislation has a different purpose, which is more enabling and targeted towards large-scale developments of this nature. Ngāi Tahu Seafood are certainly very closely scrutinised the decision from the last process and have undertaken some changes to their new proposal to seek to address some of those key concerns. So that's due to be lodged with the EPA shortly. So the EPA will be considering the application in the context of the new legislation.
Thanks, Bruce. Any further reports or questions? If not, we will move to item 10, reports. And first up is Chief Executive's report. Rob, would you like to comment on the pretty comprehensive report we have got on?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Look, I'll take the report as read. I'll just highlight a small number of key points. Just talking about collaboration, it's been a wee bit of a theme today. Yeah, there's as you mentioned, Chair, to Yurika Haka, is if you like, guiding a significant collaboration amongst the whole sector, and that's focused on flood warnings and flood management. And is the first point, and the second one is asset management. So actually getting the power of the sector together to come up with some joint work on that. It is just reinforcing, it is a very powerful resource and a huge capacity. I think in the science space, it's probably almost equivalent, looking at our chief scientists here, at a CRI in terms of the number of scientists we've got across the country. I don't think that's always understood. And there's an awful lot of work that's done together in a sense of building on each other's expertise. And so it's pretty impressive. It's one of our stories we've got to tell in terms of that value add that the Regional Council adds to the conversation. There's also some work going on with the South Island Chairs and Cs around opportunities for collaboration on a smaller scale, and a real enthusiasm from the three, especially UCAN, Otago and Southland, ourselves around things like, can we work together on biosecurity, the review of our regional pest management plans? Can we collaborate? We've got staff that are pretty busy doing lots of things. Let's look at what opportunities there are. And there's a number of other opportunities there that we're looking at as a smaller group. In the science and data space, the updated 2025 land use maps are now live on the website. We're involved in some global research projects to improve the accuracy of our climate models. That's going on. The real-time water quality data is now available online. That's 16 sites in the Waituna buoy. And the regional climate projections are due for completion this month, as is the formal launch of our replacement GIS system and the South Maps, a real significant resource for Southland. As we touched on the RMA reform process, the August legislation changes have halted regional plans and are working in that space, and also policy reviews is significant. So the organisation now focusing on what are the other tools. We're looking at updating our bylaws and also exploring other ways of achieving our outcomes, and we've got a paper coming up later on the agenda on that. We'll talk about further there. In the regulatory space, we've got 106 consent holders in the dairy space that are top performers, and they'll get rewarded in terms of some incentives around what they're required to do. So that's a real pat on the back, and it's really positive to see. We want to build that number. We've got 106. We've got quite a few more dairy farms in Southland, so we've got to build that number up. But that's pretty positive. We need to increase the emphasis on how do we build that. That's work underway. There's been a steady stream of new consents. We've got and look, we continue to get those through with 100% compliance on time frame. So that's pretty positive. The team's very busy there. So good stuff. In the integrated catchment management space, the dam safety assessment plans have been completed for 4 of our large dams, the Waihapai, the Kingswell and Otapuni and Winton. The tranche 1 of the Kanoa work is progressing, including the Te Anau and Ariti resilience projects. Good progress there. We're still patiently awaiting the tranche 2, as the chairman's talked about, so we're hopefully that's going to come through shortly. The final Murihiku slow the flow report's been submitted to MFE, and as the chairman's touched on, the last Waituna Trust meeting was held last Friday, and great to have the chair acknowledged in that space. We also got some good work going on in the biosecurity space. The bluff haul out for work's underway, which is really positive from my perspective, as we kicked that work off when I was still in the chair, 7 years, if you like. So that's really positive. I know there's a lot of people waiting there, including the field of marine guardians. It'll be a great resource for the region, so that'll be great. And also the initial possum control work on our new PCAs has been completed, and the third PCA is advancing. So again, great to see that possum control working out across the region, the comprehensive control programs that are really something that we should be celebrating in a big way. And we're also preparing for the council elections that you'll be aware of, and also planning the new council induction process. So Amy and the team are working hard on that space. So we have to put a real emphasis on that induction program. It's a pretty important part of the next training. So happy to take any questions, Chair.
Eric, then Neville, then Morris, rather.
Thank you. Look, I just note with interest that the fast track approval for the Wyndham or Venor wind farm is to proceed. Can you give us any information on conditions that might be around that? Are they required to address some of the things that failed on the first attempt and timeframes of where they're going with that?
Chair, I asked one of the team to come up. I'm not sure if it's Haley or Bruce. One of them will come up. Maybe both of them. I don't know.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. As Councillor Roy's noted, the substantive application has been lodged with the EPA and is now on their system for processing. We had a short opportunity to provide feedback on whether we considered the application was complete, which we did, so we've responded to that. The application includes 80 pages of suggested conditions of consent, and we've already had some advanced visibility around those. So we've had an opportunity to provide feedback. We'll have a further opportunity to provide feedback. Quite a comprehensive suite of suggested conditions. That doesn't obviously mean we will prejudge that the application will necessarily be granted, but we have had a lot of visibility around that. We'll have a further opportunity through the process itself. The next stage of the process will be that the panel convener will meet with the councils. There's 5 councils involved, just where the site is located. It's right on the periphery of Otago and Southern Region, and Gore District and Southern District, and Clutha as well. So it's an interesting location in terms of the proximity to the council's boundaries. And the convener will call a session around appointing a panel and what each council considers to be the key issues with respect to the proposal. So we're getting organised for that. We haven't got a confirmed date for that as yet.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Morris, you can't read my writing yet.
Yes, Chair. Yes, very good. Thank you, Rob. There's a lot of really good information in there. And information is perhaps a critical word. There's a huge amount of information that this council has that is potentially available for people to use in managing their operations, particularly their farms. But, you know, sometimes it's a bit hard to get access to that. And I know that Alistair is concerned about us communicating with the farming community, and I get that. And I just wonder, I know that we try to communicate to them as the best way possible, but a lot of this stuff is quite technical and quite, you know, it can be quite difficult to get access to. For example, the river flow data on the Thornbury Bridge on the Aparima River is really great. It shows you the flows and it shows you the sediment and how that's related to the flow. And there's a lot that we can learn from that. But to the general public, particularly a farmer who's got 5,000 sheep to look after or 500 cows to look after, you know, they're flat out. Getting that information out to them in a way that they can use to improve their operations, I think, is a big challenge. And I'm sure that we all know that, but it's something that we've really got to keep working at, I think, to make sure that what we are doing is valued and understood by the community, particularly the farming community. So it's not really a question, Mr. Chairman, but it's an acknowledgement that it's an issue and that we have to keep working at.
Chair, I think a new GIS system is going to help that process. But I just wonder whether, looking at possibly the Chief Scientist, whether you wanted to add anything about some of the science information that's available and And I know there's work going on, how do you turn that into stuff that can be understood and used by, our ratepayers, including our farmers. Karen, anything you wanted to add to that?
Through chair, so not too much other than it's something we're very aware of and kind of keep plugging away at. We keep trying to get more and more of our information out there, and as we put more information out there, people want it in a range of different formats. So we just have to, I guess, keep looking away at that one. It's definitely part of our work program to continuous improvement.
I think it applies across the organisation as well. I look at Sam's area with the land team there, use that information and the work they're doing with catchment groups, the regulatory team. But yeah, I think it's a really good point. It's something that we can think about. We need to be continuing to focus on, and how do we make this more available.
And I think now that you've got Dish, you've actually got a one-stop shop people can go to, and I guess it's still the work, probably some of the best science in the country, but to be able to get to that's the basis, but to be able to make decisions, I guess, is what you were talking about, Morris, sort of in simple language, that what that actually means. Jeremy.
Just in a couple of things. One on the synthetic nitrogen report. In the last 24 hours, there's been some public commentary around a bill being sent, $700 bill being sent regarding not reporting synthetic nitrogen. See Donna and Hayley coming. I just want to clarify that we're obviously indicating we're giving people extension times and things, so we've been pretty user friendly to get this information. But I just wondered, have we sent a bill or a fine for anybody in synthetic nitrogen reporting? My knowledge, I don't think so, but I'm just, can we get some clarification?
Chair. So there was a lot of advance comms, just to the reminder part, there's a lot of advance comms around the submission due date, which is nationally set. That's not by our choosing. An extension, because the data comes in during the week, we don't receive that till the following Monday. We built a 1 week buffer in before we started to do any reminders to make sure that we had all the data and a good data set before we started to reach out to people. From there were 2 further extension reminder emails go out directly to people to have that data in before any consideration was given to non-supply fees, as set out in our fees and charges schedule. So there have been non-supply data fees issued to people who have not given us any data whatsoever, but there have been no fees given to someone simply because they missed ticking a box.
So, and are they $700?
No, our
Just to
non-supply
clarify.
fee in our fees and charges schedule is $1,712, including GST.
So we have sent some of those bills out.
We have, and we've also had people contact us asking about the remittal process, which is our standard process every year. If you receive that and subsequently submit your data, you can apply to have those invoices remitted.
Okay, so if they did send the data in, they can ask for it.
Once we've got the data, they can ask to have the invoice remitted.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just clarifying this. Just are these? Did we do that last year? Is this something new this year?
No, it's exactly the same process we've had for 4 years.
Ongoing. Yep. That's all good. That's good to clarify that. The other one was just around the Gore gravel build up and just where we're at with consents, because we did talk about September, was it? An application in, or are we still on time, or?
Thank you, through your chair. So the consent process is advancing. The team have been working on, we have to do the methodology along with the consent application. So both of those things are coming together, but we're still aiming to get it lodged before the end of the month. So yeah, we're on track. We're working with the consents team as well as our contractors to make sure that we're ready to go.
Right.
Soon.
Cool. Good.
This is on that issue, Morris.
Yes.
Well, I'll take you now, but I've got a list, but yeah, okay, go.
So who's applying for the consent? Is that the Environment Southland? And who's going to pay for the work?
Through your chair, so yes, so my team will be applying for the consent, and we as that part of Environment Southland will be paying for the works. We have included a provision for it within the bid from Kano that we're waiting to hear from. So it could make use of some of that money should that money be forthcoming. But the team are working on the proviso that does come. If it doesn't come, we've got money to spend. Yes, so that's what the team are working on.
So is it within our budgets or?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, it's doable within our existing budgets if the money from Kanoa isn't forthcoming.
Is that material able to be used for anything else?
Yeah, the team have been talking with a number of parties about the desire for the gravel, including Southern District. So we're hopeful. The work it's doing.
Thank you. Alistair.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Lucy, there was some discussion regarding the actual area underneath those bridges. There was, and it went back to, is the same area there now to let the water through as it was when the bridge was built? And if not, what happens?
So through you, Chair, the as design question is one of the matters that the consent needs to deal to, and so we're looking at historic cross sections as well as the work the team have already got in terms of the bathymetric surveys to figure out where that level may have shifted. But it's a key part of what needs to go into the consent in terms of next steps.
Because that cost then goes back to the bridge owners, doesn't it?
So through you, Chair, not I don't have an answer to that question, and I don't want to fudge it. I'd rather just take some further advice and I can come back to you.
Peter.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just want to, during the first land use map, Scott there, you mentioned that, Rob. Land use classification, land use capability. Are we gearing up for that in this council? Well, first of all, I take it is our responsibility to supply that information, and we're seeing the land. I see the land use capability, and it's been reasonably sort of vague, and there's been quite a lot of commentary. I'm just thinking about future challenges that we'll have with this council to have a comprehensive and reasonably accurate mapping system in place for when we do start to get asks on us from the district council, so forth and that. So I'm just wondering if there's any work that we're doing in behind the scenes to ground truth those classifications in the province.
I think I'll get Chief Scientist to address it. I'm not sure it's land use capability, but.
Oh no, I've segued a wee bit, just a wee bit, but I'm asking the question I want to ask.
So through you, Chair, so yes, we do have a work program in that space. So obviously we do land use mapping that utilises some of the national data sets and adds in our own locally available information. We also have, off the back of Regional Forum recommendations, a project to do more work around understanding land use capability and suitability for different land uses. That work is sort of currently on hold while we're recruiting for a land scientist to do that work. We will also have held off a little bit to see what come out of the National Science Challenge work, who have also done some work in that space as well. So to make sure that we're not sort of duplicating what's already underway. So there is a work program, but it's just trying to balance the tension between what's happening nationally and making sure that we're not we're making best use of our resources.
I've got John, then Linda. John.
Thanks, Chair. Just under biosecurity, I see we're working with other regions around to just bring consistency with the locks around rules and some new PSA starting. I guess my question is, do we have a reasonable stock take as to where things are with possums in Southland? I think most landowners would say they're seeing numbers rising, and is it on our radar? Are the PSAs delivering what we need to deliver?
Well, Lucy might want to add, but we'll have an idea on the PCAs what the numbers are. Not outside that, but leave it to Lucy to fill in the gaps.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. I think the team's got a pretty good handle on what the numbers are doing, but there will be work to do with more information. Biosecurity will definitely be a hot topic for the new council to be considering how we're resourced and what we want to do next with the PSAs. Yeah, it's a working really closely, having those two new ones come on board and the third to have work done this season. Team continue to work really closely with farmers and would strongly advocate for them getting in touch if they're concerned.
Look, you're just on that subject. Flash today, it would have been my last local government Osprey meeting in Wellington today. And I've advocated over the years that proof of freedom and local governments go hand in hand. With other conversations probably going to go on with the Otago to try and line up our pest management strategy, because when you've got the possums aren't on the list at the moment, so you've got this massive problem sitting on our borders, and we all know that keeping vectors low is great for biodiversity, but it's also great for a whole lot of other things. But Lyndall, then Alistair's.
Thanks, Chairman. Three quick things, I think. Firstly, also the biosecurity, the regional pest management plans. You're talking about just aligning the timing of when those are reviewed, because ours is coming up, right?
Potentially going further than that, can we work together? In the past, the teams have worked together around, to agreeing what does a cost benefit analysis look like, and sharing economists and those things. So it hasn't been quite determined yet, but just looking to explore what can we be doing together.
Right.
Our first point would be aligning.
Yep, timing. Yep, great. Secondly, the predator-free rakiura research with the Pukenui operation. Just wanted to highlight the fact that the Bird of the Year competition is open, and Pukenui is once again features in that, and so we'd love it to get some more exposure. So get in and vote on that. I've already done mine.
Shameless.
Yes, yes, indeed. Others do it, why can't I? And the third one is the Slow the Flow project. Completely appreciate that it was a big thing, and it's been an amazing piece of work. But I can't help asking what happens next. So, because it will cough up some really interesting data and some really interesting kind of scenario testing. So I'm wondering what we might need to be budgeting for next.
Through you, Chair. So the Slow the Flow project, absolutely huge and very useful to us. The team are currently working on the where to next in order to brief the incoming council with our floodplain management approach and where you want to take that to in the new council. This council indicated through the long-term plan that two things. One, you wanted us to move towards a more integrated way of managing our catchments, and secondly, that you wanted us to start thinking about what does a floodplain management approach look like for Southland, and how do we take the mountains to the sea view for our catchments, and Slow the Flow is a key part of that. The insights that we gathered through that, both the community and the case studies and the economic impacts, will be incredibly useful to us and to the future council for where do you want to put your efforts in floodplain management and how we might quantify and help you to make some of those decisions. Thank you.
Alistair.
Mr. Chair, you've been at Osprey, and the possum numbers are lifting, or we believe they are. What's happening with TB?
At the moment, I'm not sure. Someone's said there may have been something in Otago again. Numbers are trending down, but with there was always a focus on. I know we just proof of freedom. I think the new CEO, Sam McIver, is probably a little bit more interested in what I've always basically said is about. Like take the Hokanuis for instance. If your vectors stay there, you've got pigs, you've got possums, you've got deer. You can never be sure you're going to have proof of freedom unless we keep those things down. We know this is a problem around the countryside. The PCAs have fallen over in a few areas, principally I think because some people in the areas that hold their own, and I think there's probably a move towards actually having a contract that does the job, does it professionally. And I think I think our guys are probably working on that at the moment, and but it's a capacity thing. I would love to have one in my own area, but the other part of it at the moment is the fur is worth some money, and there's a lot of private people out there in the fucking thing. So it's a help that won't last forever. It's Okay, any further questions on Rob?
Sorry, just to clarify, there has been a new TB control movement area in Otago. That's what I was talking about. And there's it covers 110 properties, mainly because there's TV in the possums.
Whereabouts?
This is Terrace, Lindis Valley, the upper top end of Ida Valley comes into effect on the 1st of October. So this is happening. There is
early breaking news.
yeah. So this is just on the last day or two. This is just September the 15th. So it is real. It's happening.
Okay, would somebody like to move from moved by Neil, seconded by Alistair? All in favour say aye. Aye. Right, we will move to Great South Letter of Expectation.
Ms. Rachel. Rachel will take us through this.
Right. Welcome, Rachel.
Kia ora koutou. This item is around the annual process for Great South's Letter of Expectation, which, as you will recall, is really the document that sets out the expectations from the shareholders to inform Great South statement of intent, which is the equivalent, if you like, to one of our long-term plans or annual plans. So the item takes you through the process. I would note that, like for us, the bigger years are the LTP years. So the 2024 statement of intent really nailed the priorities. There was a lot of work went on for that. And you might recall the update that Great South gave you back in July. There was a council briefing / workshop, and basically the feedback that you gave at that workshop was that you continued to support Great South's priorities. So just to remind you, that's regional development, regional promotion, business support and diversification, and Net Zero Southland, and really seeking through this item that you approve the draft letter of expectation, which of course is going around the other shareholders as well. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks for that. And I guess we are basically just a core funder. We help keep the lights on, but it's actually the FTC and ICC that actually contract for a lot of the other items that are done. But it's or as part, I guess, of the growth strategy. We are part of that, and one of the things we've pushed is to make sure there's no we don't end up having duplication. So sort of, but good clear communication so that we don't have Environment Southland doing something and Great South doing it as well. But I think it's been pretty good collaboration. I know they were very happy with the work we did to get all our data onto Dish. But any further questions, Peter and then Lyndall?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm just quite interested. There's been a lot of talk about council reorganisation in this province, and there's some active steps under the way. There has been some suggestion that Great South could widen their brief with their technical expertise they have in that office, and all the proportional investment of the councils into that entity. Would that fit within, as you said now, Rachel, within the criteria of their working brief that's been given to them? To help with that, some of those questions we all have, instead of going out and employing external contributors, just a general, I know you can't probably speak in detail to that, but just a
So through you, Chair, I understand at the Southland District Council meeting at the end of last month, when they considered the draft letter of expectation, that suggestion was made. So that will be coming through to the Joint Shareholder Committee meeting this Friday for further discussion. There's no reference in the existing statement of intent about support for that particular process, so that would be a change to what's in the current statement of intent.
That will come up on Friday. But actually, we've got the Local Government Commission who will come down and actually, do we want duplication? Do we want to hand over 4 councils' entities to Great South? No, I think there's risks in that. I believe it, and the decisions the local government commission will make won't just be about councils, it won't just be about Great South. They'll all have a say, but it's actually about the general public of New Zealand. They're independent, and I don't think we should be trying to set up another entity to essentially do the job for them.
Can I just, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, can I ask you, will the local government commission have report and input into local democracy here in Southland around their structures? Or will they just have a pretty vanilla, this is the options that we're giving you with the numbers at the bottom? So is there scope for some entity to have?
I know probably Sam can probably answer this a bit more, but I think the preliminary meetings that are coming down for very shortly will be probably have conversations with all the entities. But in a normal situation, they will come through for a recommendation at the end of the day. And in a normal situation, unless government changes things, there would be a referendum on it. So, but Sam, you're a bit of an expert in this area, so.
Just through you, Chair, we're going to have that discussion this afternoon in the workshop, and I think we might just save it for that.
Lyndall.
Yeah, just very quickly, completely, I think we've been over, we've talked it through quite well, but I wanted to kind of endorse B, priority B, regarding the connectivity, transport connectivity, especially the air travel and export opportunities and event opportunities that the current situation is stifling. And I would also like them to fix their grammatical errors before they send the letter.
Mark's missed that, yeah. Two export issues.
Not X, still.
Any further comments? Otherwise, we.
I'll move the recommendations.
Moved by
I
Neville.
understand the other councils have already dealt with this issue.
Yes, so I think by Friday, everybody will have ratified. So, seconded by Morris. All in favour, say aye. Aye. Right, we'll move to 10.3, risk pool, proposed changes to the trust deed. A picture for this sheet. Welcome, Patrick.
This paper just covers a procedural matter, but proposes per risk pool and their letter to our chief executive that we agree to some amendments to the trust deed, just to make the governance arrangements clear and the liabilities clear in terms of the board and the local government mutual fund trust itself. What you're agreeing to in terms of proposed changes outlined in numbers 1 to 5 on page 2 of the report, and we recommend that you agree to these changes.
Thanks, Patrick. Any comments or questions? Sorry. Lyndall, you first.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Just a comment, actually, that's the best explanation of why we've got to this situation that I've seen. So thank you very much, because I now understand why they keep having to come back to us. But also, completely understand the difficulties of winding up trusts, generally, but this is very complex. So thank you very much for the astute breakdown and explanation.
Any further comments on the report? Are we getting the end to the risk as a council, or is it ongoing for some time?
It appears to be ongoing for a while. It's an active wind down phase, but they haven't been able to give us clarity about when they'll be able to complete the wind down.
Somebody like to move the recommendation? Motion by Neville, seconded by Phil. Any further discussion? I will put the motion. All in favour say aye. Aye. We'll move to 10.4, Standing orders. Number 3. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. Morning, through you, Chair, just to take the report as read and then to proceed with one of the following options. Option 1, to retain your current standing orders, the 2019 standing orders version, or option 2, further to the workshop that we held on the 14th of August to adopt the new Local Government New Zealand 2025 version of standing orders with minor amendments that we had direction from the council for. Or option 3, to direct staff to come back with a further document with further changes. I've also provided under the options some advantages and disadvantages to each option. If you have any questions.
Right, you've seen the report. Eric.
Thank you. Look, it makes sense. I'm presuming the changes are the highlighted in yellow bits.
Yes.
Which all makes sense to me and is actually accommodating what's starting to happen. So I certainly would recommend that we do the recommendations 1 and option 2B. Happy to move that.
Moved by Eric and Morris, your.
Oh, yes, no, I'm happy to second that, Mr. Chairman. I think without telling fellow councillors how to suck eggs, but if we make sure that we read in the standing orders, the principles that start on page 3 of the standing orders and go to page 4. There's only about 1 page in total there. Talks about, well, hopefully everybody has read those and has them stamped on their forehead, because then we'll be able to operate in an effective manner. I'm happy to second that, Mr. Chairman.
Phil.
We are going to be workshopping this afternoon the code of conduct that's being developed. There are some potential points of friction that emerge between what's proposed as the possible new code of conduct and our new standing orders. There are some potential refinements that could be made just with some explanatory notes within our standing orders. I'm assuming that once it becomes clear what is the final outcome, that it will be easy enough to make small tweaks and refinements within the next 6 to 12 months to those standing orders as a result of that.
I think those are good points, and like the standing orders and code of conduct are basically the roles that we work on, and I think adopting this one now I think is fine, but as Phil says, they're trying to standardise code of conduct and strengthen it across the countryside, so there could be changes there that mean that the new council needs to revisit because they do need to support each other, so I think that's a good point. Any further comments? If not, would somebody like to move you've already, Eric's moved and Morris said before. Alice a third of it. All in favour will say aye. Right, we will move to the council meeting schedule, page 192.
Updates to the meeting request is that Councillor Gibson has asked for leave of absence from the 22nd for the 22nd and 23rd of September. Councillor Ludlow will be attending making the decisions training on the 23rd and 24th of September, so she'll be apologies for meetings at that time. We are adding in a council briefing on farm plan regulations for an hour on Wednesday the 24th of September following this insurance committee meeting. There'll be time required on the 25th of September to progress the recruitment of chief executive process. And the long-term accommodation working group will be meeting on the 10th of October following the ordinary meeting of council, and that involves councillors Morrison and
Any further additions for meetings or leave of absence? John?
Yes, I put in leave of absence for finish on Nuffield. Is that what it is?
I think it's in the item itself. From the 7th of October to the 16th of November.
Thank you.
Any further advances? If not, would somebody like to move the amended? Move by Lyndall, second by Paul, all in favour say aye. Right, we'll move to 10.6, which is the common seal. Moved by Eric, record time, seconded by Jeremy, all in favour say aye. And not really extraordinary or urgent business, so this will conclude the public item.
Can I just say one thing? Out there in the public, you're getting hammered that our awards are too expensive. We've changed the thing this year, only 4 judges or 4 people travelling around. We have a professional presenter, which is not going to cost us anything more, is it, Sam? So we're trying to bring the cost of the whole thing down and still celebrate what's happening within within our province. So you can, if anyone attacks you on that basis. Yeah.
Look, we look forward to seeing all the entrants and councillors on the 3rd of October. And if you haven't paid your councillors $100 at the front desk, please do so. And I'd endorse what Alistair said. You know, this has been an evolving thing for almost 30 years. And the ability to get out there and see what's going on and actually reward people doing, you know, pretty humble people doing some great work. It's actually uplifting seeing it. And I think it's not where we should be making the savings. Some people look at one line. There are other places we can save money going future rather than not celebrating the unsung heroes of our community. But on that note, I will declare the open meeting concluded for the day. And we will.
We're about to move into public excluded business to confirm the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council, to adopt resolutions from the Finance and Performance Committee on the 20th of August, resolutions from the Investment Committee on the 20th of August, and to consider the Chief Executive's recruitment provider item and the exploration of ministerial intervention opportunities. The reasons are set out on page 201 of the council agenda.
Moved by Jeremy, having heard the reasons, seconded by Morris. All in favour will say aye. Aye.